Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So I'm representing my group to present about our topic, utilizing hyperlink to gamify translation stages for fun learning in biology. So our group is known as WARS, and we are comprised of Nur Syairah binti Hashim, Atika Syahidah binti Syabuddin, Nur Hazwani binti Osman, and Rafika Zaidah binti Rafli. Okay, so for the introduction, biology is a subject that can be challenging for students to master. So based on a publication by Simpp in 2012, they outline 5 reasons why. Firstly, because biological concepts can be quite abstract in nature, teaching styles, students' learning and studying habits, negative feelings about the subject, and lastly, the lack of resources and instructional time. So, multiple studies have shown the effectiveness of interactive PowerPoints to address those issues outlined by Simpp. So, one of them is interactive PowerPoint improve the retention of biology study among students, improve comprehension and ability to apply knowledge, and lastly offers individualized learning opportunities for students. So our research came up with an interactive PowerPoint called the Simpp model. So for the lecturer's self-reflection, we find that the students tend to lose focus while learning about translation stages. Students also find that translation stages is a very difficult topic to cope with because of the traditional tedious chalk and talk method, colorless notes, and lack of diagram animation. The traditional notes are also packed with information, and it is hard for the students to focus on a specific detail, especially the important ones. For reflection on the students, they were unable to visualize clearly what happens during each stage of the translation process. The students were also unable to correctly answer the questions that were given to them. They also find the topic hard to understand as they need to memorize the explanation regarding the stages and the components involved, and therefore they lack the enthusiasm to learn translation stages because it is a very difficult topic to understand. So there are 3 focuses of the research. Firstly is to implement the use of a digital tool to enable students to visualize the translation stages and to answer questions related to the subtopic correctly. As an intervention strategy, the researchers developed an interactive simulation model known as the Simulation PowerPoint or the Simpp. The Simpp model is constructed like a game, and this innovative instructional approach will encourage activity-based and student-centered learning. For the action planning and implementation, firstly we have the timeline of action implementation, where it is divided into different weeks. So for week 1, we conducted an interview with the students and lecturers to identify the underlying issues. In week 2, we conducted the pre-test questions, where the students attended the lessons before the Simpp model was introduced and were asked to complete the pre-test questions. In week 3 and week 4, we had a group discussion where we developed the Simpp model by doing a research on the effectiveness of digital and media utilization in biology lesson. So the Simpp model was developed by considering the problems encountered by the students and lecturers during the lesson on translation stages. In week 5, we conducted the intervention using the Simpp model, where the students were asked to download the PowerPoint application in their smartphones respectively and were introduced to the Simpp model in the class. So after using the Simpp model in the class, the students were asked to complete the post-test questions and survey. Secondly, we have the components of the Simpp model, where we included a quiz on the translation stages in the Simpp model. So if the students answer the questions correctly, they will be directed to the next question. But if they choose the wrong answer, they will be directed to a page that will let them click an arrow to go back to the original question. So in the Simpp model, there are a series of quizzes included, and only by answering the questions correctly will allow the students to go to the next slide. And lastly, after choosing the correct answer for each question, an animation will appear on the specific stage in the translation process. So the students can visualize the translation process better using the animation provided. For observation and finding, we compared the result of the students in their pre-test and post-test performance. So as we can see here, 8 out of 30 students scored 0 in their pre-test question, and all of them scored 5 out of 5 in their post-test questions. So we find that there are 100% of increase in the post-test performance compared to the pre-test questions. And overall, in the 30 students included in the study sample, there are 80% of increase in performance for their post-test questions. So for the reflection and conclusion, we have divided the Simpp model into strength and weakness. So firstly, for the strength, the students showed good achievement in the post-test scores compared to the pre-test, and the Simpp has interesting animations and visuals compared to the lecture notes. And thirdly, it can be used for a long period of time, as it can be saved online, and mistakes can be minimized when answering the post-test questions. For the weakness, this study only involved a small sample of 30 students. Secondly, the Simpp can only be viewed using a PowerPoint application. The downloaded file or the printed version of the Simpp simulation format will only give static effects. And lastly, there is no voiceover in the Simpp model. So for the suggestion, for further studies, we suggest that the number of study samples can be increased so that the results of the study is more significant, and a voiceover is added to the animation to explain the translation stages better. So for the conclusion, educators need to use digital platforms and technology in teaching and learning session to ensure that learning objectives can be achieved. Based on the findings, it is proof that the Simpp gives a positive impact on the students' performance and interest in the translation stage subtopic. And lastly, this method can be implemented for each topic in any subject to improve students' understanding and interest.